If you're watching this video and you're being honest with yourself, you'll notice that your life has certain patterns in it, and that many of them you don't really enjoy. You don't really desire them. In fact, a lot of them create quite a lot of suffering in your life. The human mind is a very habitual system, meaning that it plays out the same things over and over and over and over again once it is conditioned by that thing. This is how our subconscious mind works. It repeats things over and over and over again. In fact, around 90 to 95% of your life is controlled by your subconscious mind. And if you really want to change your patterns, if you really want to change your life, you need an understanding of the subconscious mind. And I'm talking about a really deep, fundamental change to your own psychology. One that really ripples out and impacts your external world as well. How you are really acting, what you're doing. This isn't just a surface level change of I'm getting into a relationship or I'm getting an external thing that I want. I'm talking about a really deep change that happens at the identity level, at who you really take yourself to be. Because this is where all real change happens. Real change happens at the level of your identity and at the level of energy in the body. A felt difference in who you actually are. Whenever we go through very deep changes to our identity, the feelings that our body produces habitually change as well. So there is no change without an energy shift occurring in the body simultaneously, or more so just coexisting with the idea that there is no change happening without a change to the identity. These exist at the same time. So how do you really change patterns in your life? Really fundamentally, we're talking about how do we change your mind, since the patterns in your life are being executed by your mind. So how do we change your mind? Before we even begin to get into that, I need to give you a little bit more context about your life. You see, most of the things you do are not conscious. In fact, they're ran by the autopilot subconscious system. Right? The key word there is autopilot. Some other synonyms that I can give you for this would be mechanical, robotic, and machine-like. Right? If you're very honest with yourself and you're actually looking at yourself, your thoughts are very habitual and robotic and mechanical. A lot of the actions you do are unconscious, mechanical, robotic, machine-like. Right? A lot of the problems that you experience in your life are cyclical. It's the same stuff on repeat over and over and over and over again. Right? Your inability to set boundaries is a continuous problem. Right? It's a pattern that repeats itself. Your diet, your poor diet, your lack of a meditation practice, right? You basically overall, you ignoring yourself and your well-being is a continuous habit. Disassociating from yourself, escaping yourself is a continuous habit, right? And you're not really just applying awareness to any of this. Really, if we want to change our minds, the first thing we have to do is begin to snap out of the sort of trance-like state that we're in. And it really is like a trance. I want you to notice that, is that you're in a trance, right? The state that you find yourself in of just autopilot everything, there's nothing wrong with this state. There's nothing wrong with the subconscious. It's just that what you've been conditioned with isn't really helpful, which is why you would want to change it, which is also why you experience a lot of suffering in your life. So if we want to change your mind, we need to start by becoming more conscious. What do we become conscious of? You have to learn how to observe yourself. You see, you're always reacting to life. If you're actually watching yourself, right? If you're beginning to observe yourself, you'll notice that you're not responding to life. You're not grounded in the present. You're not in a sense of flow and rhythm and connection with the present or with yourself. You're reacting to life as it gets thrown at you. You're avoiding things. You're chasing after certain things. It's this reaction and survival mode that's controlling a lot of things. And if we want to really change the patterns, if we really want to change your mind, we need to take a look behind the curtain. We need to look into all the background stuff that is controlling you. All the things that you avoid. It's precisely a lot of these things that are controlling you. What do you avoid? Fear, discomfort, shame, guilt. You avoid yourself. You avoid sitting with yourself in meditation, just sitting there, being in your body. You avoid being in your body all the time. You avoid just being present in your body, feeling the sensations. You avoid just existing in the present experience without needing to stimulate yourself or run away from it. You avoid, and I stated this earlier, but I'm going to state it again, you avoid discomfort, essentially. It's discomfort that is getting you to do all this stuff, the avoidance of discomfort and the chasing of pleasure. The avoidance of pain inside of you and wanting to escape that. And if we want to change your mind, and we're taking a look behind the curtain, we need to actually acknowledge what's behind the curtain as well. We have to come into a place of acceptance of what's really going on. You see, we don't really live in an emotionally intelligent world. No one tells us how to really be grounded in ourselves or how to navigate our lives effectively or any of this kind of stuff. We get little to no guidance for this kind of stuff whatsoever. So when we take a look behind the curtain, what do we find? We find all the stuff that you've been avoiding, right? It's all the stuff you don't want to look at. It's all the stuff you don't want to admit about yourself. It's all the stuff that's hard to admit about yourself. It's your shadow. And it's this stuff that is controlling you. It's all this background phenomena that you don't pay attention to that's controlling you. And it's not far away. Like, this stuff isn't in some locked place far away. It's right there in your experience in the form of tensions in your body, right? Your shoulders are raised, or there's a contraction around the heart, and your gut's tense, and you don't feel safe being in your body. You're not even feeling your body. You don't even know what it means to be in your body. So this stuff isn't easy, right? When you're stuck in cycles and patterns that create suffering, right? First of all, a lot of that suffering is telling you something needs to be changed, right? A lot of your suffering is telling you, look here, in the same way that a check engine light comes on and it's like, check the engine. Something's wrong with your vehicle, something's wrong with your car. You got to look at it. A lot of suffering is quite similar. It's like, look here. Right? In the same way how pain is like that as well, physical pain. If you're getting stabbed or bit by something, right? You feel pain. And it's like, look here. Something's damaging you. Something's not working right. Right? Take a look at this. It's a great way of just getting your attention. The problem is that as a culture, as a species really, we don't know how to relate to suffering. We're stuck in childhood patterns of just avoiding discomfort and trying to chase pleasure. We're stuck in just these outdated patterns, right? There's patterns within patterns within patterns here, right? Not to try and get confusing. And we're stuck in just some of the most simple patterns that built up our sense of self, our entire sense of ego. So if you want to change a pattern, you have to look at the background phenomena that's driving the pattern. Right? So if you're trying to stop being addicted to your phone, you have to look at the background sensations in the body. the background thoughts, the background beliefs, all the stuff that you're avoiding that are causing your addiction to your phone. If you want to change the pattern of not being able to set proper boundaries, you need to really begin investigating your own psychology, your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your lack of security within yourself, the fear that exists in the form of just energy and sensation in the body. You have to start addressing these things, feeling them, processing them. Right? And from this grounded place, you can begin to make the change, because the difference here is one of kind of sleepwalking through life and being conscious. And right now you're sleepwalking through life. Right? All the background stuff is controlling you, and you're not even aware of it. Right? To your more, conscious experience, it's really not even that conscious. It just seems like, oh, I'm here, I'm making the decisions, and I'm doing these things. I'm the one who's in control. But really, what's doing your entire life is things that are, right now, things you're not even aware of. Background conditioning. That's kind of just perpetuating itself. And actually, it seeks to maintain itself as well. So I'm going to boil this down to the most simple stuff so you can understand this. You want to break your patterns. You got to become aware of the energy in your body that's driving it forward. You want to break any sort of pattern, any cycle. There's an energy in your body that's continuously keeping this alive, because the pattern doesn't just exist as some abstraction in the mind. It gets stored in the body in the form of energy. It actually leaves a mark on the body. You feel it as tensions. You feel it as beliefs that are constricting. You feel it as contractions in the body. Right? The pattern actually exists as, I want to say this properly, I don't want to reuse the word pattern. The pattern manifests as an energetic structure in the body that actually seeks to maintain itself. And by applying attention to the energetic structure, right, by bringing acceptance to it, by feeling it, by allowing your awareness into it, by opening yourself up to it, the pattern starts to release its constrictions. And it just naturally starts to open up and process. And once you're kind of opened up, right, you're more present, you're sharp, you're lucid. Right? Naturally, all the patterns that you didn't like, that were just coping mechanisms for pain, they naturally start to fall away too. You have a pattern that's driven by shame. You need to process the underlying repressed feeling of shame that exists as an energetic structure in your body. It's an energetic flow of sensation in the body. You want to break how you're always distracted, right? Process your feelings of boredom or frustration or sadness, whatever's driving you to engage in that particular pattern. Right now, I'm generalizing all this information, but take this, start applying it to your specific situation, and you'll recognize that, yeah, this feeling of anxiety drives me to be kind of neurotic and like on edge. And from this place, I'm overly controlling. I can't let go. I can't surrender. I can't even just sit down and enjoy life. I'm too scared all the time. How do I stop the pattern of being so anxious all the time? Well, you have to process the feelings of anxiety. You have to learn how to become more present and grounded within yourself. You have to learn how to be more stable within your own body, how to feel safe within your own body, how to inhabit your own body, how to just be in the space that you naturally occupy, right? How to not push these difficult aspects of human experience away and grasp and cling on to another more desirable experience or sensation or feeling. It's this habitual, rejection of certain experiences and clinging on to others that is keeping a lot of these patterns alive, because this is what a lot of these patterns were built on, if you actually notice. Right? A lot of the patterns that you're facing in your life were built on the avoidance of pain and the grasping on to pleasure. But then at one point, the patterns they're not functional anymore. They become dysfunctional. And we have to change them. And that avoidance of pain, whatever the pain was, in this context, emotional, it gets stored in the body. Like I said, leaves a mark in the body. And you have to apply attention to it. You actually have to become conscious of it. Right? If you want to change the pattern, right, notice where the energy is stored in your body, in your gut, in the form of tension. It's basically everywhere for the most part. Your whole body's really tense. Your whole body's almost in a constant state of constriction and just contraction. Especially the more present you get to your body. You'll notice that there's gross levels of tension and subtle levels of tension. Gross levels of tension are like your shoulders are habitually raised and your gut is always just clenched and held. And then there's subtle levels of contraction where it's just this sense of just like closure and a lack of openness to your actual experience. And a really important point is that these patterns seek to maintain themselves, meaning that they don't go anywhere until you really begin to process them. And even then, it's hard. You'll want to avoid again. Why is that? Because these patterns actually have sort of homeostasis to them. They want to maintain themselves. They want to stay alive. Right, so a lot of your patterns were built on top of patterns. Like I said earlier, patterns within patterns within patterns. The pattern, right, let's say a more surface level pattern of not being able to set boundaries, right? There's a deeper pattern actually reinforcing this one of just the avoidance of pain and the grasping onto pleasure. The avoidance of feeling uncomfortable, setting a boundary, the shame, guilt, fear that arises with that, and the avoidance of those emotions. And then that whole underlying structure creates a more surface level pattern of just not being able to set proper boundaries. So there's layers to this stuff. There's depth. Right? So doing things in your life, when you're around, when you're just in your life doing things, I want you to notice that there's background feelings that are actually controlling you, that you're not applying attention to. You're not aware of the sensations in your body right now, your feet on the floor, the air on your face, the feeling in your chest. You're not really aware of the tensions and contractions in your body. You're always avoiding them. Your attention is like very selectively not highlighting those aspects of your experience, right? It's not by accident that you don't apply a lot of attention into your body and your gut and really feeling it, right? This is unconsciously on purpose. This is built on the avoidance of pain. And what I'm saying is that all that pain is the exact thing that is driving you to continuously reenact certain patterns in your life that are dysfunctional. And those patterns end up creating even more pain. Right? There's also layers of pain. There's like repressed pain that's really your sense of ego, self, was built upon. And then there's pain that's like, it's more so the byproduct of doing certain things, and it's telling you, like, even more, it's like you really have to look at this. Right? So an example is like, let's say you're just scrolling on your phone for 10 hours a day and you start to feel numb and you're like anxious and you're depressed, right? Because you're eating Pop-Tarts and scrolling on your phone for 10 hours a day, right? There's the more surface level pain of like numb and like feeling kind of sick in your body and tired and like you don't have energy or motivation, and it's this sort of depressing state, right? This is like telling you something is just fundamentally wrong here. And then underneath all of that, there's fears, there's contractions, there's feelings of shame, sadness, guilt. So I want you to have this idea of sort of levels and layers and depth. This is going to be really useful when you're actually examining yourself, because it's not all at this one surface level. It's like there's increasing sort of levels here. And they need to be brought to your attention so that you can really go to the deepest ones. And the deepest ones are self, ego, right? The avoidance of our true nature, the sort of the avoidance of realizing that our definite sense of self is an illusion, that really we're very fluid, that there is no definite sense of self, and that the definite sense of self is built upon the avoidance of pain, fear. It's literally built upon fear. It's built upon the fear of impermanence, feeling the fluidity of experience, feeling the constantly changing nature of experience. It's built upon the avoidance of pain and the chasing of pleasure. And if you can learn to get comfortable with the hiccups, if you can learn to get comfortable with your own discomfort, right? At one point, it's going to become pleasurable. At one point, you'll realize that the avoidance and this game you're playing of just running from yourself, this is the pain in the ass. This is the actual problem. The feeling of grief or shame or sadness or embarrassment or general discomfort, right? This was never a problem. This was totally tolerable, especially as an adult. As a very young kid, yes, this was a problem, especially if you had no primary caretaker that really helped you to regulate. Because very young kids are completely dependent upon their caretakers to regulate emotion. And if there's no one really there, they're not giving them the proper attunement that they need, it starts to really get trapped inside of them and all that stuff. But now that you're an adult, you're really okay to just start existing inside of your body, to start really getting grounded in yourself. Now that you're an adult, you're totally safe to just feel whatever it is that you're feeling. You're totally safe to just begin investigating your own discomfort. You're totally safe to just really be here and be present. You're safe to stop escaping it. You're safe to stop fighting against it. You're safe to stop avoiding. So if you want to change your patterns, you have to stop avoiding the underlying pain that drives those patterns, the chasing of pleasure. And it's very short term, right? A lot of our patterns, they're built upon just like short-term goals of like escaping pain now, right? Because this is just, it's stuff from our childhood. It's stuff from being 2, 3, 4, 5 years old and not being able to handle life and feelings of pain and overwhelm and abandonment and all this kind of stuff. Feelings of just insecurity in the present that drive us to just avoid, to do certain things, right? And then we establish patterns based off of that. And then they just kind of start, continuing on into the future. So at the core, at the really core level, why are you not authentic? Why do you feel so inauthentic? Why don't you take good care of yourself? Why are you always distracted? Right? I won't even answer those questions. You already know the answer. You watched this video. You've made it this far, you know the answer already. You know exactly what I'm going to be saying next. I'll answer it. Why not? It's because there's certain aspects of your experience that you're selectively avoiding. There's a reason why you don't apply your conscious and your full conscious attention, really, to those sensations, to feelings of shame, grief, guilt, sadness, fear, embarrassment, anger. There's a good reason why you always escape it. And it keeps you on this hamster wheel, does it not? Do you notice it's very cyclical? It creates the illusion of getting somewhere in your life, but you're just kind of stuck like a dog chasing its own tail. That's it for this video. You can apply to work with me one-to-one. I do coaching. Take it easy.